Handprint CARE, ESD and School Subject Disciplines, Part 5, ESD Systems and Processes. A simple way of thinking about ESD systems and processes for Handprint CARE developed around the idea that in modern times, people, other living things and environments that we all share have not always been well cared for. And in this way, we're looking for doorways to more sustainable patterns of care, learning doorways, caring for things better and caring about things that are important to us. So Handprint CARE became a process of caring about and caring for. Sustainability unites a positive ethic of care and systems thinking in deliberative Nexus Learning. And Parker in 2014 proposes that complex questions of sociocultural and ecological sustainability can be contemplated across 5 intermesh systems. These systems are the cosmological, the atomic and chemical structures, all that are necessary conditions for life. Then the life support systems of living things, ecosystems and climatic systems, and then material systems and practices that are linked to social systems and institutions. So we've got a substructure supporting social systems and material systems. And then when you look above that, you've got the human cultural systems of representation and interpretation that allow us to function within the social systems and to function with the material systems that we've got at play. So ESD is kind of like a nexus learning, or environmental education is a nexus learning process. And in the Handprint CARE, we look at this as circles of care, dealing with these complex systems and processes within which systems thinking is a very important dimension. Now, it's also transformative, and a transformative model of ESD as nexus learning has been produced by Chikamori et al. From Japan. And they look at the idea of the past informing the present and bridging into the future. And here we've got a student in the present, students in circles of care. And we have to be able to have a pedagogy that, knowing the past, allows us to think in the present. So reaching back, looping back at the shape of society and community and human activities in the past, allowing us to know the present that we know through direct experience, and now we can know through looking back. And then, of course, bridging into the future, looking at the shape of society and community in a sense of a utopian future that we might imagine, and we might be able to think towards using a process that's commonly called backcasting. Look at the steps that are necessary to get to where we want to get to. So if we go back to our quadrants, the photographic discussions and story sharing is a very important way to look back at heritage, and that occurs in quadrant 1. So photo discussion and story sharing can enable learners to relate the present with the past and learn how things came to be, how they are at present. And this is called retroductive learning. Then we have got the depth inquiry of quadrant 2. And here depth inquiry and systems modeling can then clarify things that are missing or absences or being done without enough care, things that are being done without enough care. So into quadrant 3 now, and what we've got is much more human agency, learner-led work, design solutions and change challenge assessments in quadrant 3 and quadrant 4. And here learning, enabling students to design solutions and to undertake change challenges where they can imagine and create better solutions together. And this is retroductive learning, where they're working with their ideas. So this is a very useful way of helping us to develop a curriculum that is enriched by looking back, enriched by looking into the present, and that enrichment provides the possibilities of being able to reimagine the future. So if we're looking for a process model, and this comes from Sanino and Engstrom, where they talk about the importance of process models in education, or process models of learning for co-engaged Nexus learning in deliberative circles of care. Working from intergenerational heritage, life experiences and what is known to us, sustainable well-being is open to discovery. During reflexive depth inquiry, as individuals and collectives of people engage their emancipatory concerns. So the concerns and the heritage of people is really foundational in this process model of the way that learning happens for ESD. During objective work in the world, the depth inquiry, deliberative meaning making, and internal conversations, thinking deeply ourselves, to remake society and ourselves by reconstructing our material practices together. So this is a very simple, flowing process that indicates the kind of theory of change or the process image that is our picture of the way that environmental learning should be happening, or the way that ESD is happening. And it's quite complicated, so let's try to simplify it. And we can simplify it by clustering it in a sort of sequence. So working from intergenerational heritage, that's a quadrant 1 activity, an orientating or a tuning in activity. During depth inquiry to enhance well-being, that is a quadrant 2 activity. Quadrant 2, depth inquiry to enhance well-being, isn't really going to be as rich unless the intergenerational heritage and the looking back to be able to look into situations has occurred, as in the previous slide. Individuals and collectives can deliberate and resolve concerns. Now this is where the agency comes in, starting in quadrant 3, to take up an initiative, and then enhance material practices together and assess these, a quadrant 4 activity. So during objective work in the world, we can remake society and ourselves together. So this is a very useful, simple way of thinking about a process of ESD. And the example that I'd like to show you is the module of Handprint CARE on looking after rats, mice, mole rats, and moles. And here what we do is we start up by looking at disease that rats brought, the plague, the history of red location in South Africa, and then the habitat change that produced the disappearance of mice, so that you're able to counterpoint rats and mice. So there's a very strong heritage story of the disappearance of mice and the resurgence of rats in the modern era in this local area. And then we look at systems thinking and simplified ecosystems for supporting the depth inquiry, looking into the problem of rats and looking at the disappearance of mice. And it produces shared concern that are quite complex and overwhelming. And we look at looking after moles and rodent mysteries. Now here we're using a geographical approach called the mystery method, which I got through Thomas Hoffmann, and we're able to therefore use it to deliberate complex mysteries, looking at things from different dimensions or different stories that kind of come in to complicate a situation. And the students here have to unpick and think about what they would do, what would be their shared purpose, to look at the striped mice in the grasslands and humane mousetraps without using poisons, controlling rats naturally using raptors, owls, etc. And there's also an eco-puzzle sheet that comes in here. And this is resolving and assessing better ways of doing things. So if we look back to quadrant 1, we've got the heritage into the depth inquiry. That provides the foundation for the deliberation that is led much more by the learner's ideas to resolve and assess better ways of doing things together, the change project that we dealt with in the previous module. So this concludes the 5 modules looking into Handprint CARE and the thinking behind it and the practical ways of approaching things. So the part 1 to 5 provide theory and starting points for expanding existing teach task tests. So it's not new, it's just an expansion of what is already being well done in education, in school subject disciplines, so as to include ESD as learner-led inquiry and change challenges. And finally, here are some readings. I didn't put in the one of Engstrom, but you can look up that, Engstrom and Sanino. Apologies for that.